Most people live their lives waiting for the perfect time, waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting for the fear to disappear, waiting until the conditions are exactly right, and you know what happens. They wait their entire life. They sit on the sidelines while time passes, while dreams fade, while possibilities die. But the truth is this: there is no perfect time, there is no perfect moment. The perfect moment is the one you create by taking the first step. No matter how late it feels, no matter how afraid you are, no matter how many times you've failed, you can start late. Who cares if you didn't begin when you thought you should? You're not behind, you're exactly where you need to be. Some of the greatest breakthroughs, the greatest businesses, the greatest transformations were born from people who started when everyone else told them it was too late. They ignored the noise, they took the step, and they created something extraordinary. You can start over. Maybe you've tried before. Maybe you've fallen flat on your face. Maybe the world saw you fail. And guess what? That doesn't mean you're finished. That means you've collected experience, you've gained perspective, you've built resilience. Starting over doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous. Because this time you're coming with wisdom. This time you know the pitfalls. This time you have the fire to do it differently. You can start scared. Fear is not a sign you should stop. Fear is proof you're stepping into growth. Fear is energy, it's fuel. Every person you've ever admired, every leader, every innovator, every legend you've looked up to, do you think they were fearless? No. They were terrified at times. The difference is, they moved anyway. They acted through the fear. They used the fear as a compass, because the things that scare you most are usually the things that will transform your life the most. You can start again. Life will knock you down. Circumstances will break your heart. People will betray you, the world will test you, and you'll feel like quitting. But every time you rise back up, every time you refuse to stay down, every time you restart, you build a version of yourself that is unstoppable. Starting again isn't failure, it's power. It's proof that nothing can hold you down for long, so stop waiting. Stop analyzing every detail. Stop believing the lie that you have to be ready. You'll never feel ready. That's the secret. The people who make it, the people who win, the people who live extraordinary lives, they didn't start because they were ready. They started because they refused to wait. They started because the pain of staying the same became greater than the fear of change. Start late, start over, start scared, start again, but above all, just start. Because once you start, momentum builds. Once you start, doors open. Once you start, the fear shrinks. Once you start, your life begins to shift. Your future doesn't care about your excuses. Your destiny doesn't care about your doubts. It only responds to one thing: action. Not someday, not when you feel confident, not when everything is lined up perfectly. Action now. So what's it going to be? Another day of waiting, or today? The day you finally take the step you've been avoiding? The day you stop hesitating, stop doubting, stop holding back, and you just start. There is no perfect time to begin anything meaningful in life, because life doesn't wait for ideal conditions. People often convince themselves that they should wait until they have more money, more energy, more clarity, more confidence, or more resources. But all that waiting is just another disguise for fear. The illusion of a perfect time is what keeps so many people stuck in place, watching opportunities pass by while they rationalize why they haven't started yet. The truth is, no matter how carefully you plan or how long you delay, the moment will never come when everything aligns perfectly. You'll never have all the answers. You'll never feel completely ready. You'll never be free from obstacles, doubts, and distractions. That's the trap most people fall into, and it's the reason they end up living the same year over and over again without real progress. What separates those who break through from those who stay stuck is not timing but decision. It's not about waiting for the right time. It's about creating the right time by taking action now. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. You don't wait for confidence to show up before you begin. You build confidence through doing. You don't wait for resources to magically appear. You find ways to create them once you're already in motion. It's when you finally decide to move that momentum starts working in your favor. Momentum is born from action, not hesitation. That's why starting today, even imperfectly, is infinitely more powerful than planning endlessly and never executing. Look at every great achievement in history and you'll see the same truth. The people who made a difference didn't wait until the timing was convenient. They acted in the middle of uncertainty, when it was uncomfortable, when fear was loud, when circumstances looked far from ideal. They started when others told them they were unprepared, when the environment looked hostile, when the odds looked against them. They didn't have certainty, but they had the courage to step forward anyway. And that single decision to begin is what created the momentum that changed everything. The idea of perfect timing is really a way of avoiding responsibility. It's a comforting lie we tell ourselves so we don't have to face the discomfort of beginning. We think if we wait until the stars align, we'll be spared the pain of mistakes or the embarrassment of failure. But that's not how growth works. Growth requires risk. Growth demands stepping into the unknown. And waiting for the right moment only keeps you standing still while life moves on without you. The truth is, there's pain either way, the pain of starting and facing the challenges head on, or the pain of regret that comes from never trying. One hurts in the moment, the other hurts for a lifetime. The only right time is now, because now is the only time you can control. The past is gone, and the future is uncertain, but you have this moment. This moment is the door to everything you've ever wanted, but you can only open it by acting. Every day you delay, that door slowly closes, and the weight of regret becomes heavier. But when you choose to act now, you flip the script. You take back your power. You tell yourself and the world that your dreams are worth more than your doubts. Your goals are worth more than your fears. And your future is worth more than your excuses. The people who wait for perfect conditions end up being controlled by circumstances, but the people who start now learn to create their own conditions. They build momentum brick by brick, mistake by mistake, lesson by lesson. They don't waste time trying to eliminate uncertainty, they learn to dance with it. They don't chase perfection, they chase progress. And that's the key. Progress compounds over time. The tiny step you take today, as small as it might seem, will look monumental in a year if you just keep moving. So the real question is not whether the time is perfect. It never will be. The question is whether you are willing to take the first step right now, despite the imperfection, despite the doubt, despite the fear. Because when you choose to begin now, you set forces in motion that you can't fully see yet. Opportunities show up that weren't visible before. People cross your path that you never would have met otherwise. Skills develop that you didn't know you could master. The act of starting creates a ripple effect that waiting could never produce. That's why the only time that matters, the only time you can rely on, the only time that has any real power is now. Starting over is not weakness. It's one of the greatest strengths a human being can develop. Most people treat starting over like it's a punishment, like it means they've wasted their time, wasted their effort, wasted their chance. But the reality is that starting over gives you something that can't be gained any other way: experience. You are not the same person when you start again as you were when you first began. The lessons you've learned, the failures you've endured, the mistakes you've made, and the pain you've felt all give you an edge. They shape your perspective, sharpen your instincts, and fuel your hunger to do it better this time. Starting over means you carry wisdom into the battle, not just blind ambition. When you first start something, you enter it with a kind of naive confidence. You believe in your vision, but you don't know the terrain yet. You don't know how hard it will hit you, how many obstacles will stand in your way, how much patience and persistence it will demand. And when life knocks you down and you have to start over, it feels like defeat. But look closer. You're no longer entering the unknown. You've seen the battlefield now. You know where the traps are. You know the mistakes to avoid. And you know the cost of not giving it everything. That knowledge makes you more powerful than before. That knowledge is what allows you to rise and fight smarter. The world celebrates people who win, but what it doesn't often show is how many times those winners started over. Businesses that are admired today were born out of multiple failures. Artists who inspire millions were once rejected, ignored, and forced to try again and again. Athletes who dominate on the world stage have stories of defeat, injury, and setbacks that would have ended most people's journeys. The difference is not that they never failed, it's that they never feared starting again. They embraced the reset. They welcomed the chance to rebuild, and they saw starting over as the doorway to a greater version of themselves. There is power in admitting when something isn't working, letting go, and beginning again with new insight. That's not weakness, that's courage. Weakness is staying stuck in something that doesn't serve you because you're too afraid to reset. Weakness is clinging to the old story because you don't want people to see you stumble. Strength is saying, I learned, I'm different now, I'll rise again, and this time I'll do it better. That's the attitude that transforms failure into fuel. That's the mindset that separates those who quit from those who grow. Starting over also breaks the illusion of finality. So many people live like one wrong move, one failure, one mistake means the end of the road. But life doesn't work like that. Life gives you infinite opportunities to begin again if you're willing to take them. Every sunrise is a fresh page. Every choice is a chance to redirect your path. Starting over is not the end, it's the beginning of a new chapter, and the story only gets stronger because of the chapters that came before it. When you start over, you strip away the unnecessary weight you've been carrying. You see more clearly what matters and what doesn't. You stop wasting time on distractions and put your energy into what truly counts. You're hungrier, more focused, and more disciplined because you know how fragile opportunity can be. You know what it feels like to lose momentum, so now you protect it with everything you have. And that intensity, that urgency, that refusal to waste another moment is what makes starting over a blessing in disguise. People fear judgment when they start over, as if others will laugh or criticize them for failing. But the truth is, everyone who has ever achieved something meaningful has faced those same doubts, those same whispers, those same voices. And none of it mattered once they rose again. Nobody remembers how many times you fell. Nobody cares how many times you had to reset. What they remember is that you refused to quit, that you found a way forward, that you built something great out of what once looked broken. Starting over doesn't erase your past, it builds on it. Every lesson, every scar, every experience adds layers of depth to who you are and what you can achieve. You're not beginning from zero. You're beginning from experience, and that gives you an advantage over the version of yourself that once started fresh. Starting over is strength because it requires humility, resilience, and faith in the future. It forces you to look failure in the eye and declare that it won't define you. It forces you to reclaim your power instead of surrendering it. And it forces you to recognize that your journey is not over until you decide it is. Fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that you are standing at the edge of growth. Most people treat fear as if it means danger, as if it means they should back away, retreat, or wait for a safer path to appear. But fear is often proof that you're moving towards something that matters. It shows up when you're stepping into the unknown, when you're pushing beyond the limits of your comfort zone, when you're daring to demand more from yourself than the world around you thinks is possible. Fear isn't there to stop you. It's there to test you, to ask you if what you're chasing is worth fighting through discomfort for. Every person who has ever achieved something extraordinary has felt fear. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck is not the absence of fear, but their response to it. Fear whispers, what if you fail? What if you look foolish? What if it doesn't work? And most people surrender to that voice, convincing themselves it's a warning to stop. But the truth is, fear rarely signals real danger. In most cases, fear is nothing more than anticipation of the unknown. It's your mind projecting worst case scenarios, trying to keep you safe by keeping you small. If you allow it to control you, it will paralyze you. But if you learn to reframe it, fear becomes fuel. Think about the moments in your life when you felt the most alive, the most proud, the most powerful. Chances are, fear was present in those moments. Walking into a new environment, taking on a challenge you weren't sure you could handle, standing in front of people to speak your truth, taking a leap toward your dream even when the outcome wasn't guaranteed. All of those experiences came with fear. Yet, once you stepped through, you discovered strength you didn't know you had. Fear wasn't a stop sign, it was a gateway. It was the doorway you had to cross to meet the version of yourself you were meant to become. The energy of fear is actually the same energy as excitement. Your heart races, your body tightens, your breathing quickens. It's your system preparing you for action, but most people misinterpret that energy as danger and retreat. Imagine what changes if you tell yourself, this isn't fear, this is energy. This is my body gearing up for growth. This is my system preparing me for breakthrough. Suddenly, fear becomes your ally instead of your enemy. Suddenly, that pressure in your chest feels like momentum waiting to be released instead of a weight holding you back. Fear points you toward the very things that will stretch you, expand you, and transform you. The things you avoid out of fear are usually the things you most need to face. The conversation you keep putting off, the opportunity you're afraid to grab, the risk you hesitate to take. Those are the very moments that hold the keys to your growth. If you only move when you feel comfortable, you'll never move beyond where you are now. But if you move in spite of fear, you unlock a level of courage, confidence, and strength that can only be discovered through action. People often wait for fear to disappear before they take the leap, but that moment never comes. Fear doesn't go away on its own. It gets smaller when you move toward it. Action shrinks fear. The longer you wait, the louder fear grows in your mind, the more reasons you create to avoid stepping forward. But the second you act, you take back control. Each step through fear proves that the monster in your head was smaller than you thought. Each time you face it, you gain a little more confidence, a little more power, a little more proof that you're capable of more than you imagined. When you embrace fear as a compass instead of a cage, your entire perspective changes. You stop asking, how do I avoid fear? And start asking, what is fear trying to show me about my potential? You stop seeing it as a reason to pause and start seeing it as a reason to act. Fear is the signal that you're on the right path, the path that will stretch you beyond your current limits and reveal your true strength. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to master your relationship with it, to let it drive you toward growth instead of hold you in place. Fear will always be there, no matter how successful you become, no matter how strong you grow, no matter how much experience you gain. The difference is that you learn to hear its voice differently. Instead of hearing stop, you learn to hear go instead of hearing danger. You learn to hear opportunity. Fear doesn't mean you're not ready. It means you're about to enter a space where you can expand. It means you're standing at the edge of transformation, and the only way to step into that transformation is to move forward in spite of the fear. Every restart makes you stronger, more resilient, and unstoppable, because each time life knocks you down and you rise again, you're no longer the same person who fell. You carry with you the scars, the lessons, the perspective, and the deeper understanding of what it takes to keep going. Most people see restarting as a setback, but it's actually a step forward in disguise. Every time you begin again, you're not starting from zero, you're starting from experience. That experience gives you an edge that the version of you who once began fresh never had. It makes you tougher, sharper, and hungrier than before. Resilience isn't built in comfort. It's built in the moments when you're forced to rebuild after a loss, after a disappointment, after life didn't go the way you expected. It's in those moments of restart that you develop grit, the inner strength that no one can hand you and no circumstance can take away. When you restart after failure, you prove to yourself that circumstances don't control your destiny. You do. When you restart after heartbreak, you prove that pain doesn't own you. You own it and you turn it into power. When you restart after defeat, you show that no obstacle is strong enough to keep you down for long. Each restart becomes a declaration that you are unbreakable. The people who inspire the world are not the ones who never fell, but the ones who kept getting back up. The greatest stories of triumph are filled with chapters of restarts. Athletes who tore their bodies apart and rebuilt them. Entrepreneurs who went bankrupt and then built empires from the ashes. Leaders who were rejected, doubted, and ridiculed before they created impact that shaped generations. Their strength wasn't born from winning every time. It was forged in the fire of restarting when most people would have quit. That's what makes them unstoppable. It's not talent, not luck, not perfect circumstances. It's their relentless refusal to stay down. Every restart gives you resilience because it forces you to confront the part of yourself that wants to quit. Every time you choose to rise again, you kill that voice a little more. You strip away its power and replace it with the belief that you can survive anything. That belief compounds with each restart. The first time you start again, you're uncertain. The second time, you know you can do it because you've done it before. By the third or fourth time, you've built such a deep foundation of strength that quitting is no longer an option in your mind. You become a person who doesn't just endure setbacks but uses them as fuel. When you restart, you don't just rebuild what was lost, you rebuild with more wisdom, more clarity, and more focus. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You recognize what's worth fighting for and what's not. You become more strategic, more efficient, more disciplined. Every restart strips away distractions and sharpens your vision because you understand how precious time is and how valuable every step forward can be. You don't have the same illusions you once did. You know exactly how tough the road will be, but you also know exactly how tough you are. That makes you dangerous because you're not entering the game blind anymore. You're entering it battle, tested. The fear of restarting is what holds most people back. They see starting over as an admission of failure, as proof they weren't strong enough, smart enough, or good enough. But the truth is the exact opposite. Restarting is evidence of strength. Restarting means you had the courage to face failure and still move forward. Restarting means you weren't broken by the fall, you were rebuilt by it. The people who never restart are the ones who stay stuck in mediocrity, trapped by the fear of trying again. The ones who dare to restart are the ones who discover how unstoppable they truly are. Every restart is also a chance to reinvent yourself, to let go of the old patterns that held you back, to release the limiting beliefs that chained you down, and to create a new standard for what's possible. You get to decide what kind of person rises from the ashes. You get to rewrite the story, to choose whether you'll be defined by defeat or by resilience. And each time you choose resilience, you become harder to break, harder to discourage, harder to stop. Restarts don't weaken you, they forge you. They strip away the excess, the excuses, the illusions, and they reveal the core of who you are. They show you that strength is not built in avoiding the fall, but in rising from it again and again. The more you restart, the more unshakable you become. The more you rise, the more unstoppable you feel. And the more unstoppable you feel, the less power fear, failure, or circumstance have over you. Restarting doesn't reset your journey, it amplifies it, because every comeback adds another layer of resilience to the foundation of your strength. Action beats excuses because no amount of planning, wishing, or talking will ever create results without movement. People spend years convincing themselves they need more time, more resources, or more preparation before they can begin. But all of those reasons are simply masks for hesitation. Excuses feel safe because they allow you to delay the discomfort of starting, but they also keep you chained to the same place. Nothing changes until you act. No matter how small the step is, it always moves you further than standing still with the perfect excuse. Momentum is born in motion, not in waiting for conditions to line up, and once you take action, the excuses that felt so heavy start to lose their grip. Every breakthrough you've ever seen in someone else's life came because they acted when it would have been easier to wait. They put in the work when they weren't ready. They showed up when they were afraid. They moved forward when they didn't have all the answers. Excuses might sound logical, but logic never built greatness. Action did. The reason so many people remain stuck is because they are addicted to explaining why it's not the right time. They build a case in their mind that justifies their inaction, and then they mistake that justification for wisdom. But the truth is, any action is wiser than endless excuses. Excuses protect your comfort zone, while action destroys it and creates growth. When you act, even imperfectly, you open doors that were invisible before. Opportunities don't come to those who wait. They come to those who move. People who make excuses think they're avoiding risk, but the biggest risk is inaction. Inaction guarantees regret. Inaction guarantees missed chances. Inaction guarantees that your dreams remain nothing more than ideas. On the other hand, action may lead to mistakes, but mistakes can be corrected, adjusted, and learned from. Every mistake you make in action moves you forward. Every excuse you make in hesitation holds you back. Excuses are easy to create because they feel like protection from fear. They let you avoid the risk of failure, the possibility of embarrassment, the discomfort of hard work. But that comfort is a trap. While excuses keep you safe, they also keep you small. The cost of excuses is invisible at first, but over time it grows heavy. It's the weight of unrealized potential, the quiet ache of knowing you could have done more, the haunting regret of what might have been. Action, even when it's messy, even when it's scary, releases that weight. It gives you evidence that you are capable, proof that you can move forward, and confidence that grows only through doing. Action has a way of multiplying itself. One step leads to another, one small win leads to bigger wins, and soon the momentum takes over. Excuses don't compound, they only stagnate. The more you give in to them, the easier they become to repeat, and before long they are your default response to every challenge. That's why action is so powerful. It interrupts the cycle, it breaks the pattern, it trains your mind to trust movement over hesitation, progress over perfection, courage over comfort. The world doesn't reward excuses, it rewards execution. No one gets celebrated for explaining why they didn't try. No one gets remembered for the brilliant idea they never acted on. History remembers the ones who moved, the ones who dared, the ones who acted despite fear, doubt, or uncertainty. Action is what transforms ideas into reality, potential into achievement, and vision into legacy. Excuses can only explain why something never happened, while action creates something worth remembering. People often underestimate how powerful small actions can be. They think they need to make a huge leap, so they keep putting it off until they feel ready for that leap. But in reality, even the smallest consistent actions crush the biggest excuses. One phone call, one workout, 1 hour of focused work, one conversation. Those small steps build momentum that excuses can't compete with. Once you've acted, you gain evidence that progress is possible, and that evidence silences excuses more effectively than any argument you can make in your head. Action is not about waiting until you feel confident. Confidence comes after action, not before it. Every time you act, you build trust with yourself. You prove to yourself that you keep promises, that you follow through, that you can rely on your own discipline. That self-trust is the foundation of true confidence. Excuses erode it. because every time you give in to them, you send a message to yourself that fear or doubt has more authority than your commitment. Over time, that weakens your belief in what you can achieve. Action does the opposite. It strengthens it, it hardens it, it makes it unshakable. Excuses will always be available. There will always be reasons to wait, reasons to hesitate, reasons to hold back. But there is never a perfect excuse strong enough to replace the power of even imperfect action. Action is what builds momentum, what creates opportunities, what transforms you from someone who dreams into someone who does. Excuses keep you trapped in the story of what you could have been, while action writes the story of who you actually become.